Hey folks, Ariel over here at Fineth with a little update on the duckling eggs in the incubator. If you don't know the history of these guys, you might want to check out the last few videos. Anyway, what you're seeing here is a developing egg being candled with the light shining through it so you can actually see through the eggshell, where you can see a baby duck already moving around inside, which is pretty amazing. These first few shots were when the eggs were about 16 days old. That was the development. Here, what you're looking at now is when the eggs are... Let's see, they hatch at 28 days, they're about 24 days old here. See the little duck bill moving around in there and how big the air gap has gotten and how the duckling is filling out the whole thing, so you can't really see the blood vessels and such anymore like you could when they were smaller.
With the whole rest of the shell, you really can't see anything in other than that air pocket because the duckling is so big. These guys are 4 days away from hatching. This is the last time we're going to look at them. Isn't that so cool? Hi, little ducky. I even heard a few of them cheep, actually, when I moved the lid on the incubator. I don't know if the camera caught that. You're starting to be able to hear them cheep through the shells. The little sponges there are just to help keep the humidity up. Our air is so dry that just filling the water reservoir doesn't quite do it for us. See that one moving? Okay, I had to be gone a bunch of the day, so I missed them starting. According to my calendar, these guys weren't due to hatch till tomorrow, but as you can see, this egg right here is mostly zipped. That's going the whole way around. We've got one little wet duckling right there. That looks to be an empty shell already. So does that. So does that. This one has pipped. You can see where it's broke a hole there. This one has pipped. You can see right there where it's broken a hole. There is a sleepy little duckling right there. Another one that is zipped almost the whole way around. If I can get to the back here up against the wall without disturbing them too much. We've got 3 fully out of their shells, and it looks like everyone else is working their way out.
Sorry about the poor lighting here. The incubator has been in the shop for all these weeks, and they all decided to hatch around midnight on the 27th / going into the 28th day. And I didn't want to turn on any of the really bright lights because it didn't seem like very natural. So the lighting's a little dim and every now and then the candle struggles with it. But this was so amazing to get to watch. And while I'd much rather have every baby bird raised by an actual mama bird, one advantage of having them in the incubator is you actually get to see all this, which normally happens out of sight under their mama. So I thought that was pretty neat. It takes a good bit of effort to get yourself pried out of the shell when you're a little baby duckling, and you can see how soggy and wet one that's just pried out looks, where it's sibling there beside it that's already been out for 45 minutes to an hour. These all hatched over the course of 2 hours, I'd say. That one is much more dried off and already looking fluffy and cute, where the new one looks kind of like a little drowned rat.
They're just all coming out, huh?
Yeah, that's 5 now.
And all that work of prying yourself out of your shell and having chipped all the way around it before and such is exhausting. So you can see little babies will sometimes take a nap for a second or rest for a minute, and then work again to pry the rest of the way out, which is just incredible to watch them doing. And then it's pretty amazing as soon as they fluff up how they fit in that egg just a few seconds earlier. But they do, and it's a pretty amazing process to watch. The already hatched ones move around and they bump into each other and they all cheep, which I think seems to encourage each other to keep working. And anyway, it's an amazing process to see how a baby bird comes into the world. Like usual, Burley is very, very interested in baby things. So he was sitting right here with me watching them hatch and very intrigued by all the little cheeps that were suddenly coming out of this incubator thing. But he sat here with me in the middle of the night. We had been helping Clay hay all day. There'll be a video on that soon. So pardon the couple times you hear me sneeze and cough. I'm super allergic to grass and my body was still trying to clear out some of that stuff. But I was really glad that we made it back to the house in time to get to watch most of them finish coming out of their shells. And yes, what you are seeing off there on the right hand side, in case you're wondering, is a duck poop. Ducklings are very, very good at putting poop everywhere, including in their incubator while they're still hatching. But here you get to see I think this is the final one coming out. The other egg to the left there is already an empty shell. So just a quick review if you didn't get the history on all of these guys. This batch of eggs was under Ember the chicken for a little while originally. They had been collected by Mrs. Quack, who then sat on them for a day and then decided being a mother was entirely too much work for her taste and abandoned them, at which point one of our Icelandic hens looked at them and said, "Oh, those poor abandoned eggs need a mama." And so she started sitting on them. Now, we already had a batch in the incubator, and so since ducklings take 28 days to hatch and chickens normally take about 21 days, I didn't want her to have to sit so extra long since I had the option. So a couple days before the first guys hatched, we swapped in the middle of the night. We swapped the one she was sitting on, these 7, for the 8 that were in the incubator. And all 8 of those hatched out underneath her, and she has been raising them now for the past 9 days. While these 7 that had a mama chicken sitting on them for the first couple weeks of their life went into the incubator, which is what they are hatching out from now. Now, originally we had started with 10 eggs in the incubator. 2 developed for a while. They were definitely all fertile because they all started to develop, and after about day 6 or 7, 2 of them just quit developing, and 10 days later, when I could clearly see that every other egg was still changing and they were not, I pulled those out and did a little egg topsy, cracked them open to see if I could see what went wrong. With nothing discernible. There was a tiny little baby duckling discernible in there, but it was very clearly dead. So anyway, 2 had died initially, and that was out of the 8 original, or the 10 original ones. The remaining 8 went under Ember, and she hatched them. Then she had been sitting on, there was actually 8 eggs that Mrs. Quack had collected and then abandoned. And I did candle them after they'd been under her for a couple days because I wasn't even sure if any of them were viable after that whole scenario, and I didn't want her to sit forever waiting on eggs that were never going to hatch. So I candled them, and again, there was one of those 8 had started started developing. So we again had 100% fertility rate, but again had quit, and I don't know why. So that left 7. That's the guys you're seeing hatching right now. So all total, there's 15 ducklings out of 18 eggs that had started one way or another, and I'm actually kind of surprised any of them hatched, because some of those first ones were laid early in the morning when our temperatures were still getting well below freezing, so I wasn't sure if the egg had gotten cold enough to kill it. And then the other batch had, you know, the situation being collected and rattled around by Mrs. Quack and then sat on and then got off of, and anyway. So I'm a little bit surprised that any of them hatched, so I'm very, very pleased with that rate, and it's very exciting to have 15 little ducklings here. Isn't a half-dry little ducky just adorable? As some of the rest hatched, I did pull the first few out of the incubator because it was pretty snug in there, and put them over with the hot water bottle so the rest would have room to pry the whole way out of their shells without being too crowded. And if you're wondering, I'll link to this down below, but this was a Carbonics incubator. It seems to have worked well for us. It does have an automatic egg turner that works for chicken eggs and some duck eggs. Ours were too big. I did have to turn them by hand. Blue Swedish eggs were too big for the automatic turner to handle, but it did seem to hold temperature and humidity quite well and successfully hatch ducklings. So yeah, if you want to check one out, it's not the best one out there, but it's also far from the most expensive one out there. So it seemed to work for us, and I'm hoping to not have to use it too many times, because hopefully most of our babies into the future will be raised by mamas and not an incubator. So here's the first few that I got dried off and put under our fake chicken mama, which is now becoming a fake duck mama. So the rest of their guys could have room to get out of their shells in the incubator. They're snuggled up against 2 hot water bottles in there, under all the feathers. Go look up the video of how to make your own fake chicken mama, or how I did mine anyway, if you're interested. And they're very funny. Their heads are so big and their necks are so long when they first come out. They are all sleepy and tired from all that work to get out of their shell, and they kind of look like they're dead when they actually fall asleep because their big heavy heads roll over sideways on their necks. But they were getting a little bit of rest here, and then after a bit they got more active again, started to move around a bit, want to peck at each other and get some motion going. So this is about 6 hours after the last one hatched in the middle of the night. When I got up again the next morning, they spent the rest of those hours snuggled in their fake duck mama there. And now they've got a cardboard box. This is just on the floor in the shop, which is why I've left that insulated bit of styrofoam under them to help hold the heat in, because concrete can be pretty cool. But by morning they were up and wanting to waddle around and peck at things and check out the water already and eat some little bites of food and peck each other and so on. And now they're all dry. You can kind of see the colors we have. I believe we have, out of this batch, 2 that are blue, what's called blue with Swedish ducklings, and the other 5 are all splash. Unlike the batch of 8 where we had 3 splashes, 1 black, and 4 blues. This is 2 blues and 5 splashes, I believe. So it's interesting always to see what colors you get. So they hung out here for an hour or 2 because it gets in the 40s at night most of the time in the summer. It was, so fairly cool outside that early in the morning. I didn't want to take them outside quite yet, so they hung out in here till it warmed up just a little bit outdoors. And then, once it was a little bit warmer outside, I thought I would go see if there was any chance that their older duck family, with their mama Ember, the Icelandic chicken, would adopt them. And so I sat here and carefully watched. At first, some of the bigger ducklings kind of wanted to bop the little guys on the head, as you can see here. I don't know if that's a pecking order thing or what. They didn't seem to be too rough, but they were definitely doing some pecking and knocking over of the really little ones, who at this point are, not even 12 hours old yet. Ember seemed to like them from the start. She looked at them and immediately started her soft clucking, just like she'd done to all her other newly hatched ducklings. And so after watching them for a bit here together, we decided that she was definitely accepting of them, so we kind of kicked the slightly bigger ones out and let them snuggle under their mama in the crate with the door closed for a sec, which seemed to work.
So the newest chucklings are about 12 hours old now. Ember definitely seems to have adopted them, since the bigger ducklings were wanting to bop them on the head a little bit. We decided to just close the crate door there with Ember, and so they could have some peace and quiet with her for at least a little bit. But they're all snuggled under her. You can see somebody's head out from under, and one off to the side. But she's got all 7 of the new guys under there. And these are big enough they weren't really snuggling under her anyway, especially not in these warm summer days. So they're just hanging out nearby, and Mama is being such a good chick mama that she is now raising her second batch of ducklings. So she's going to be raising, I think, both of these, even though they're about 9 days apart in age. So that is pretty cool. Ember, you're an awesome mom. So this is their second full day of life for the newest chucklings. I guess they'll actually be 2 days old till like midnight tonight, but they seem to have integrated quite well in with their bigger siblings, if we want to call them that. They're all getting along. Some of them are over there playing in the water, the double-layered water puddle, and the rest are in here hanging out with Mama, following her out. Anyway, Ember seems quite sure that all 15 baby ducks are her children. Whether that is because she's just such a motherly bird who just wants to mother everything, which is possible, or because she actually knows that she did sit all of those eggs for at least part of their hatching time, because we had done, like I talked about, that swap with the eggs that were in the incubator to being under her so they could hatch under a real mom. And then anyway, so she sat both these batches of eggs for part of their life. I don't know if they hear and smell each other enough that she can recognize that those little guys were ones that she had also sat on. Not sure, but anyway, it seems to be working out well. Last night, once it was dark and kind of cooling off, the littlest ones were pretty well all snuggled underneath her, and the bigger guys were kind of snuggled beside her because they're really too big to get under her anymore anyway. And yes, Mr. and Mrs. Quack have seen the kids. They're in this same pen at night because they got locked in overnight so that nothing can eat them, and then they're out during the day. These bigger guys are really getting to actively like their swimming play. Anyway, Mr. and Mrs. Quack don't seem to have much interest in the babies. That could also be because Ember is a very good defensive mama who makes sure that no other bird gets close to her little babies, so they haven't really had a chance either because she thinks they all belong to her, and so they haven't had much opportunity, but they haven't shown much interest in thinking that these are our baby ducklings that we should do anything with either. Anyway, 15 small and mid-sized ducklings running around in here now, and it's pretty fun to watch them. Like, the bigger guys are figuring out how to do the full swim under the water there and dip and clean, and that's all instinct because their poor mama chicken didn't know how to teach him how to do those things. Anyway, it's a lot of fun to watch them, and we'll have no idea who's boys and girls for probably quite a few months yet. Swedish ducks are particularly difficult to tell until they're fairly mature, but they're all eating, playing, stretching, swimming, and Ember is being just the best mama ever. You guys will have to come follow us on MeWe. She's named Ember because of her beautiful coloring. You can see there when she walks out in the sun where she looks a bit like an ember in a stove, with the dusky layer on part of it and the dark charcoal colored head. But that was a name that one of the subscribers came up with on MeWe when we were trying to name all the chickens, and we went with all color-based names. And somebody came up with that one, which fit her perfectly. So anyway, if you guys want to help name more chickens or ducks whenever whoever all is girls matures, you should come on over there and get your ideas in too. Anyway, that's the chuckling update right now. 15 chucklings of 2 different ages running around the yard together, pecking it. We got some watermelon peels there, which they're learning to peck out. The adult ducks really like that. The little ones are still kind of figuring it out. And once again, it's a lot of fun to watch all the babies.
We hope you enjoyed it.
Come back next time for more adventures.
Thanks for watching.